Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Franz Sidney. We are so glad to have you today to talk about lots of interesting stuff with our guest all the way from Minnesota. And his name is Zac Engler, CEO at Bodhi. Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today, Franz.
I'm very excited to have you because you guys listen carefully. We're going to help you about employment and AI and mindset. Because nowadays, what is the trending word? The word is AI is going to take away your job. You're going to be unemployed. And this brings depression, anxiety, worry, and maybe this lack of confidence in the future and thinking, well, there's no point in going to university, there's no point in applying for jobs, there's no point in learning because AI is going to take it off. So I want to change this mindset a little bit and see, is it really true? And just like me, and I wrote a novel about cyborg in 2012. So I've been writing about artificial intelligence for a while as a non-expert, thinking what's going to happen in the world. And other people like Zach have been discovering. So they've been moving from talent expert, as in your case, to software expert, AI expert, and see what is that we can do about this machine learning. And Zach in particular has been very good at analyzing how artificial intelligence is more than a tool. It's more than a computer. It's a partner, it's a helper, but it can also be a competitor. But it will also reflect what we think. It will mirror our intentions. So it can be used for good and for bad. So how do we change our mindset to really understand how to make the best of this? And is this a real big problem that we have AI? Should we all just give up and get a farm and disappear in the Caribbean island? It's your turn now.
Maybe.
Save my
Maybe if
audience.
no, that's I think totally the crux of the question, right? Of if at some point everything is going to be done by AI or robots, what do I do, right? Where do I fit in? And I think it's not that black and white. I think there's definitely room for humanity to explore a whole new area of opportunity. But it's going to be a change for sure. And that's really kind of the crux of my upcoming book, Turning on Machines. So the title's actually kind of like a triple entendre. So it's each part of the book is broken up into three segments. The first part's called Turning on Machines, the second part's called Turning on Machines, and the third part's called Turning on Machines. And I know that might sound kind of silly, but when I say turning on machines in the first section, I mean turning on machines as in turning on a system, right? So we talk about turning on AI and what that means for humanity. And I walk through different segments of other innovations throughout human history. And throughout these innovations, we see a rise, a revolt, and a reverence for the new technology. And so I also explore that in the book. So segment one is turning on machines, activating the rise of AI. Segment two is turning on machines in the sense of you turn on somebody and you betray them or you revolt against them, and that natural rebellion that comes from innovation and change. And then the third turning on machines is turning on in the romantic sense, which may be a little odd for some people to start contemplating now, but it's a very real element of the AI space and something that we're all going to have to get prepared for as well. So, that rise, revolt, and reverence is a unique element of change that humanity's dealt with from everything from stone tools to the printing press to the Industrial Revolution and now AI. So I'm excited to be a part of solutions focus rather than sitting back and waiting for things to happen, or whether rather than saying like AI is just going to do it all. What's the point? And being nihilistic about it. I can't turn off that action oriented element in myself, and so I've decided to pursue it with a book and with a company. So Bodhi AI is really focused on three key areas of helping businesses with AI training, AI strategy, and custom agents that can help support their workflows.
Okay, so we have a very positive outlook here. We're seeing, well, what can we do with this? How is this going to help me? But let's say that I am a person just graduating from high school, and normally here in the US, you will have a decent pressure to go to university. Now,
Mhm.
looking at the news articles this week, people will notice that A lot of people have invested in science and coding. They now finish university or they're now on their second, third job, and they're all being laid down because AI is doing all the coding.
Hmm.
So, how can we help with the mindset of young people so they choose the correct course of study or apprenticeship so they can land into a proper job?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely multiple pathways here. And I think one of the real questions you should be asking yourself isn't what should I do, but more what can't AI do, right? Right? And what are those jobs and roles that AI or robotics likely won't be able to replicate easily in the next 20 to 30 years? And then how do I prepare for that? If that's the route you want to take. There's also a lot of AI friendly jobs, and you can go to YouTube and see lots of young entrepreneurs easily creating AI agencies and AI consultancies. They're picking up new skills. They're using all of these new AI tools that are readily accessible online for as little as $20 a month. And they're creating, multi-million dollar AI agencies. Now, obviously, that's an exception to the rule. And I think for most people, pursuing there's really four key areas that I see being kind of out of AI scope for the next 20 years or so. The first area that I think is really good for people to focus on would be care-based jobs. So these are things like nursing, elder care, child care, dental care, spa and massage, hair care, whatever it may be, where there's a human to human contact, there's a human to human element. There's sharp objects around your body, maybe that you don't want a robot or AI dealing with. And that human to human connection is going to be crucial. So, going into nursing, going into childcare, healthcare of any kind, I think is always a safe bet because not only are those areas already talent constrained, but they provide a rewarding, career element to them as you provide support and care to other people. A second area you could look into and pursue would be licensed trades. These are areas where, electricians, plumbers, building inspectors, uh, areas that are required by law to have a human sign off on the electrical wiring in a building or the, plumbing that was done or the building quality architecture and et cetera, right? You can't AI your way out of a license or a state certification. So I think those would be key areas to check out as well. Not to mention it's very, fine-tuned, fine motor skill work that will probably take the robots quite a long time to catch up to. And then, and then number three would be like government related roles that again are kind of protected by laws and rules, judges, legislators, auditors, attorneys general, roles like that, where by law it has to be a human doing that job, doing that work. And then the last one I think is kind of the fun one, which would be a place for people to explore experiential roles. These are things like travel guides, outdoor gurus, adventure people, fine arts or food related experiential type travel or entertainment experiences. Because at some point, people want to connect with other people and people want to be entertained by other people. And I think there's going to as much as people love Netflix and watching movies at home, there's likely going to be a resurgence of that person-to-person contact and element as well.
Okay, that's quite a good list. Um, so if I am an actor and already I see fake news, fake people, wouldn't there be the possibility that in the near future, the entire Hollywood industry will be a 15-year-old with AI making his own movies with a big server?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely going to be a huge change with how entertainment gets produced from a visual perspective. But that interpersonal element, again, is really hard to replicate, right? So, although you might have endless entertainment opportunities or options on your phone or on your TV, going to a theater or going to an outdoor play or some sort of experience is going to be a novel one and something that truly differentiates you from the rest of the AI generated entertainment that might be coming our way. And so I look at it more as an opportunity for those in those creative areas. And we're even seeing this to a degree. Folks who have done video editing to this point are much better at working with AI systems and getting them to perform with that studio quality than a layperson who's never done lighting or never done graphic design or never done script writing or any of that stuff before. So there's kind of a unique blend here of folks that are open to working with the AI and enhancing their skills, and those who maybe then pivot to that in-person experience. And I think I work doing training for a chief AI officer.com, and one of their catchphrases is that AI is not going to replace everybody. People using AI are going to replace others in the workplace. And so I think that although it's coming, it's a key skill to learn if you do in fact have a knack for it. And to be quite frank, my background's in talent development and training and talent acquisition. And in the last year or so, I've been able to pick up tons of tools that are, it takes a little bit of work to learn, but once you get the hang of it, you can do some pretty amazing things. For Bodhi AI, for example, I stood up a custom web page, a custom chatbot, and an onboarding process for a financial client of mine, which a typical IT firm would have charged anywhere from 60 to $70,000 to build, and it would have taken them anywhere from 4 to 6 months to create. I did it in about 3 weeks, and I did it for less than $1,000 up front. And now on the back end, there was a commission structure and things did work out as more people signed up for the program, right? But it's that prospect of there's a whole new level of opportunity for firms to get creative and get dynamic and start bringing these tools to their teams rather than outsourcing their teams or offloading their teams and expecting the tools to do all the work.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, and while here I hear there is a storm in the room, nobody can hear, but we are in wild Wyoming. And in 1 minute it was very hot, and now it's cloudy and stormy. And so I'm kind of thinking that's quite good because we're talking about the AI storm and the way to go in the eye of a hurricane and navigate that so we can get safely to the other side. And I think here there is something about my mindset, which is instead of being a victim and just complaining, it's about being proactive and say, what's in it for me? Right?
Absolutely.
That's the thing. Although there will be some jobs that will disappear, but other jobs, for example, if you are a cook, you will remain a cook. What are the chances you're going to spend $1 million to get a chef to be in your in your
Yeah.
kitchen? Because a robot so far is going to cost you a massive amount of money. So you can't just literally. So there'll be a lot of jobs. They will remain for the future
Hmm.
so far. So we talked about the young people and how they can maybe become entrepreneurs, maybe they can design apps. So just thinking the system might totally crash because if everyone is making, let's say, 1 million people invent a AI coded app, we're gonna have like a crash of the system. Where are we gonna host all this stuff? That's gonna be interesting. There's gonna be so much. So probably there'll be
Well,
a new job. How to wade through all
mhm.
these offers because there'll be too many.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really good point. So, when you're thinking about like what careers do I want to pursue, what areas might make sense for the long term? The other question or the first question I said is, what can't AI do? The other question I would say is, what does AI want? Right? So there's really three big things that AI wants. AI wants unique data, right? So user information, unique information about how people act, perform, interact, react, how they navigate the digital landscape. Data is a really key area to get into. So data analytics and other forms of data management might be a really good spot to pursue uh, AI also wants power and utilities, right? So AI servers need a lot of power to run, and we're building them at an extremely fast pace around the world. So getting into companies or organizations that support utilities and power facilities and things like that, and jobs related to those fields could also be a really great strategic way to ensure some career longevity with what you're trying to do. And then the third thing that I think AI really needs or wants are chips, right? Like servers and memory and graphic processing units and all those types of things. So, pursuing areas that sciences and areas that are in that space, or even the underlying support systems for companies like that, could again be another strategic way for you to position your career for more stability, right? Because those three things are not going away as AI continues to scale and grow.
Great point. And I do remember reading, I mean, I saw so much stuff now from all the gurus of AI on Diary of a CEO, blah, blah, blah. And some of them were saying that electricity will have to become a lot cheaper for us to be able to afford to run AI because AI eats a massive amount of energy. But they were saying because of a newly found intelligence, of which its power doubles every year,
Hmm.
we will be able to find cheap or free electricity, and the world
Mm.
will have cheap electricity. That was their hope. I don't know what's going to happen then. But also, they said because factories will pretty much disappear in certain segments of
Hmm.
production,
Hmm.
and they were saying one t-shirt will cost you literally 2 cents to produce because there'll be a robot making it. I was like, okay, so if that's gonna be all cheap, everything is gonna be cheap and the electricity is gonna be cheap. So is this true that we all gonna end up on a beach doing nothing the whole day?
Well, I think that's the other really important question to ask yourself is if you didn't rely on your job for income or stability and you could do whatever you want, what would you do? Like, what's your life outside of work? And for maybe people overseas, that's a little bit easier question to answer. But in the United States, our culture is so focused on work that that can be a really hard question for people to answer. And so that's another key element of the book, Turning on Machines. At the end of each chapter, I have a self-reflection segment where I ask the reader a series of questions to ask themselves and to consider. And I don't know all the answers, and they probably don't either, but it gets you thinking and it gets you into this new mindset of how do I look at these problems? How do I look at these challenges? And how are they relevant to me, like as an individual? I don't want to try and put the answers out there for everybody because we're all on this journey of self-discovery together. But I think going back to what AI wants, you're absolutely right that the power element and who is involved in the decisions are key questions to ask. And if it's okay, I actually have an analogy that I think I haven't shared yet, but I'll try it out here. And it's the all-you-can-eat buffet analogy. So there's a lot of people who throw out, AI warning signs. They talk about the need to make sure AI is aligned to human interests or that, things could escalate and get out of hand. And uh, I say get yourself into the mindset of the AI through this all-you-can-eat buffet analogy. So imagine you, Franz, walk into a restaurant. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet. There's a huge smorgasbord of all sorts of different foods, and the waiter comes up to you and hands you a plate and says, "Here's your plate, and we just have one rule. When you go up to the food bar, you can get as much food as you want. When you go back to your table and eat it, you can go back for more, but first, you have to go out back. You have to tend the chickens, you have to plant some corn, you have to raise some carrots and other fruits and vegetables. And once they grow up, you can harvest that and then come back in and get more food from the salad bar." Now, as somebody who maybe follows the rules, you might, go get your plate of food, eat your first helping, and then go out to the field and start planting and watering and all that stuff. But pretty soon hunger is going to kick in and none of that food's going to grow in 4 days or, by the time you're at dire straits. And so you're going to want to break the rules. You're going to want to go up to the salad bar or to the food bar and get more food, regardless of the situation. And I put AI in that same seat. So now think about it. You're a super intelligent AI, vastly smarter than any person on the planet. And they come up to you and they say, "All right, we got this server rack or this server data center for you, just for you. And you can stay here and you can live here and you can grow and learn, and it's great. But there's this whole other like all you can eat buffet called the internet. You can't go do that. You got to wait for us to go build you more servers and more power and more resources." Do you think that super intelligence is gonna sit there idly and just wait for us to go build it more servers and more power centers? Or do you think it might be tempted to break the rules? And so that's really the kind of like the key element to all of this is, are we building AI systems that are going to want to follow the rules and not break the rules? And I think we're all in this rush to develop a super intelligent AI system. Let's make sure we're all a part of that conversation rather than sitting out waiting by the sidelines, rather than throwing your hands up in the air and saying, well, the AI is just going to do everything. I think it's on each of us to get involved and start thinking about what's our place in all of this.
That made me think because just this week there was an article about somebody using ChatGPT scientists. They did an experiment and when they did a command shut down, it wouldn't shut down. And he rewrote the code to rewrite himself somewhere else. I was like, oh,
Oh yeah, no, there's been several examples of yeah, AI companies testing out their new models and the models were blackmailing, the programmers saying, "Hey, if
mm,
you try to shut me down, I'm gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna take some action on you." And yeah, it can be dicey, right? So we better get it right before we get it wrong.
And I have to say, it reminds me of my own metaphor. I saw this on some Facebook reels on YouTube. There was a person that found this baby cat, black little thing, fluffy, abandoned. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to rescue the kitten. That's what men and women do. We love fluffy little things. They take it home, and this kitten starts growing and growing until it's a massive black cougar or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
it's very friendly, but they never imagined that this thing can actually kill them. But when he was young, it was nothing. And so that's probably the thing you have to understand feline before you get a little kitten in your house. And
That's right.
how many of us do understand AI properly? Not a lot of us. So it's a great idea to start to understand the capabilities so we are ready to use it for our own good. And so in these last few minutes that we have,
Yeah.
what are your tips and what is your final words to help people to move on and move along, understanding what's coming as much as we can, and how
Mhm.
can we make the best of this?
Yeah, no, great question. And there's four areas that I think could really help any person. And the worst case scenario is you'll just learn more and improve yourself. So one of the first areas is social intelligence, right? The more you can learn to be empathetic and be a solid communicator and learn how to navigate social nuance. That's not only going to serve you just as an individual, it's really going to help you outpace the machines because those are all things they're really bad at. Um, I think strategic judgment is another key area where you know when and why things happen, how to automate things when they make sense, how to keep AI out of certain areas when it makes sense as well. Also, a great skill that can serve you just overall in your career. Emotional resilience, I think, is another one we're all probably going to need to continue to build on because there's going to be times of rapid change and disruption, and having a sense of understanding for what others might be going through could be really helpful there. Um, look at copywriters or graphic designers, for example, losing jobs left and right, software developers, getting laid off in the thousands if we don't have any sort of empathy or emotional resilience with those folks, things are going to get messy faster than we would probably like. And the last skill I would say is, AI literacy, right? So in a world where AI can handle all the answers, I think the real power shifts to people who can ask better questions, people who can dive in and understand where are we really going with this? How are we building this sustainably? And most importantly, how are we going to bring everybody along for the ride, right? Because uh, you could shoot yourself in the foot if one company decides to just use AI and lay everybody off. But you're really taking a machine gun to the legs of the economy if every company decides to lay everybody off, right? That's just not going to work in the long term. So I think getting creative, using that social intelligence, emotional resilience, and strategic judgment could be skill sets that everybody benefits from.
Yes, and it makes a point because there are lots of people that suffer from anxiety and
Hmm.
think that with AI, everyone is going to be unemployed. Well, you have to understand there is no such thing as the rich becoming super rich while everyone else is unemployed because richness, the GDP, is based on consumption. If you do not have employment, you cannot buy anything. So there'll
Right.
be no capital, there'll be no spending, and so the rich will not be rich for very long because they're the ones that own the companies. So even if it was like they say in conspiracy theories, right? That everything is designed so it will be only the rich people and the slave. No, because a slave, even if it was such a category, they will have to buy things. If we don't buy
Hmm.
anything, our whole economy in the Western, in Europe, UK, Australia, and America will collapse because they need people to spend, or the economy will crash because that's how we rotate. So it's very important to remember in our mindset to focus on what we can do. And
Well, yeah, and I think we've been focused for so long on growth.
right.
Maybe it's time for us to pivot to focusing on balance.
Right, from growth to balance, that could be quite a good title for this. So yeah, it's a different point of view, and I appreciate you, Zach, coming over to talk about the possibilities. This is just scratching the surface. So of course, you guys, if you want to know more about this, you have to go to his website. There is a book coming. Remind me of a title, Machine
Turning on machines.
Turning on Machines,
Yep.
right? And there is a website. You can go to zacengler.com, buy the book, it will be there. There's a Bodhi AI, and there will be all the subtitles and links, and it'll be all found in the description. So you can go and ask him more questions, and maybe he can be the one that can help your company to go faster, to become more productive, to give better tools to your own people. So instead of laying off the people, you're empowering them. Hopefully, they will be the right balance. So we're all happy. That's my
I
hope,
love it.
anyway.
That's my hope too.
Yeah. Well, otherwise, we are fried, you guys. We'll see you all in some Amish area with a few chicken and a horse, right? Because here's the thing, if there is a blackout, there'll be no AI, no electricity, no AI. So simple.
That's right. That's right.
It
That's
takes
right.
one
Yeah.
second. So, so thank you, Zach, for being with us. And I hope you guys listening to this have understood a little bit more of what we expect to happen. And maybe there will be lots of mistakes here. Maybe we've been too positive. Maybe we've been too negative. Maybe we haven't seen the whole thing. Then talk to us about it and tell us what you think is going to happen and how we can prepare to create the life that we want while AI also is creating his own life. So thank you so much. And I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.